I am so excited, you guys, to introduce Brittany Cole Bush to you because I don't even remember when I met you. I mean, I do remember where it was and when it was, but the year kind of escapes me. I think it's 2015, maybe. It was in Bolinas at the Peace Barn, and Cole was there, and she was talking about this amazing idea to have shepherding schools in the West, meaning California and the Mountain West and Western United States, in the same way that they have them in Spain and France and the Pyrenees. And she was undertaking this incredible fact-finding journey. And she was just going with her friend Guido, and they were going to go and they were going to visit these long established schools. And I thought it was such a cool idea. And she had had a long day, and we pulled out a video camera and we're like, will you talk about this on camera for us, please? Because at that time I was doing these little vignettes, and she was one of the first people we interviewed. Anyway, fast forward, I was in France a couple of years later in this really remote place called Salé-du-Béarn, which is in the Pyrenees. And they had just had this terrible flooding, and we were talking to these people that lived in the town and this and that. And they're like, where are you from? And I said, I was from Marin County, California. And they're like, oh, we met this shepherdess. And I was like, my friend Cole. I turned out I had gone, like I was on vacation. I wasn't doing anything work related at all. And I go into this tiny little town, and there are people that have met Cole, and they're like, oh yeah, she came and interviewed us, and she was fantastic. Anyway, so I've watched her when we founded Soil Centric, Kyle and I. The very first opportunity that kind of landed in my lap was to produce this film for Fibershed, another organization that is amazing, run by a woman named Rebecca Burgess. And she's like, I was telling her about this idea I had for a video, and she's like, oh, we've been wanting to make a video like that too. Do you want to produce it for us? So before we had a logo, before we had a website, before we had anything, I went out and produced this video that Cole's in, and she talks about Shepherding School of the West. Anyway, fast forward, we have just long admired everything she does, and she just recently joined our advisory board. So without further ado, I present Cole, who is just a wealth of information about all things shepherding.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thanks for reminding me of that awesome story. Well, I mean, I think that that story of like going to this small little spot in France and then having this overlap, you're not even there on work, but you get reconnected. It's almost, that's something that I think is really cool, is that when those connections happen, you realize that what you're doing isn't work because it's interwoven into your life, meaning your life and work is not separate. It just is. And similar to relationships, I don't feel like I have work relationships. I have real relationships because I solidly, with quality, care about the people that I engage with, because I don't differentiate work from life because it is all one. Some of my employees might want to say something different from time to time, but that is really kind of my mode. And so, Diana, that story was really beautiful to illuminate that when we are on our path, those really beautiful moments, they're bound to happen because we're living that truth. And so I think that was a beautiful way to start. And thank you so much. Wow, it's awesome to be here. I'm in Southern California, about an hour plus a little outside of Los Angeles, California, the largest metropolis in the West Coast of the United States. And I am a modern day urban shepherdess. It's kind of cool that this like term shepherd and shepherdess are like coming back in trend, when really being a shepherd is the second oldest vocation in all of humanity. So, you know, this isn't a new thing, folks. It's ancient futures in practice. So I thought to start, got a shepherd texting me. Hold on, gotta say shepherd, I'm on a thing. I'm also a boss. You think I'm a shepherdess out there with my crook and my border calling my animals. It's mostly like often. So before I get started, I kind of want to know my audience a little bit more. And Diana did a good job at just giving me a preview of what this program is and this cohort and where all of you are at in your ambitions on, really engaging in your own regenerative path of sorts. But I was interested in kind of making sure that what I share with you today is the most relevant and juicy and informative. So I've already met Haley. I know Kyle. I met Jenny. Can Ben and Abby just real quickly just tell me? I'm trying to see if I'm missing anybody else.
Megan.
Megan, sorry, Megan. Oh, yep, there you are, Megan. Can you just tell me where you're at real quick?
Yeah, I can go for it. Hi, Cole. My
Hi.
name is Ben. I'm currently in Auburn, California. I'm starting work as a seasonal whitewater raft guide. And I've kind of always grown. I grew up in Sonoma County and had a lot of access to agricultural work growing up. And my passion or like my focus right now is helping fundraise for a small farm in Chile to build an education center. I spent some time there back in 2020.
Sweet, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Megan. I'm in Yakima, Washington, Central Washington. I don't currently work on anything ag related, but I'm looking to career transition. So I've been doing work with the Soil Food Web School, so Dr. Elaine Ingham, and then also I just finished the EOV course with Savory, and I'm going to do holistic management training in June and September.
Sweet.
And I'm Abby, and I'm a student but about to graduate college. And I'm super into the whole like holistic livestock grazing thing. Love to learn about it, and it's something I think I would like to do in the future. So I'm excited to hear from you.
Sweet. Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you. So what I would just like to say before I kind of jump into some visuals, if you want to share screen capabilities, that'd be awesome. When I say I'm a shepherdess, people think of either Christ or sheep and pastoral bucolic maiden waiting for her steed on horseback. People think that I work with sheep and goats and dogs on beautiful landscapes, and I do. But actually, what I think brought me to this work and why I've kept on pulling this thread or follow the breadcrumbs of what it means for me to be in this work in a regenerative career path, creating my own wild vocation, is because I'm really passionate about answering the question, how can I, in my work and in my life, create an impact, a positive impact on as many lives and acres as I can while I'm here on Earth. And what my skill sets that have been developed over time, but also just I think that I inherently have, is I love people. I love people, and that's not always it's not always thought of in correlation to shepherds, because traditionally shepherds are alone and they're tending the animals. And when you tend to animals on broad landscapes and you're not with people, you kind of change your frequency, which is not our current day frequency of rapid information and engagement. I can be alone, but what I most enjoy is supporting other people on their own paths of finding how can we do work that it means something, both in our persons, in our bodies, and making an impact both right here, right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. So I kind of had a tag early on that's shepherdess, shepherding animals, people, and projects. And I'm really grateful to be a part of the Soil Centric community, because the vision and the work and the mission is really to help shepherd people on their paths to finding, our meaning and our doing and our being in this work. So that's my little bit of a soapbox soliloquy is, Yes, I am a shepherdess, and I will tell you more about what that means. But what I'm most excited about really is being a part of a community of other folks who are really looking to create impactful and meaningful work. Be it, you know, starting our own businesses or looking for a vocational path. Maybe we're brand new getting into our careers. How do we start? Where do we go? Those are the things that we are looking to do. And it all starts kind of with asking the right questions to help feed us into the next thing. So I will tell you a little bit more about what my path has been in answering the question, how can I be the most impactful in this wildly small time I have on earth to contribute to good things while I'm here. And hopefully that will enlighten or shed some positivity on your path, on your decisions that you have to make, on what it means to be in this pursuit of happiness. So I think what would be cool, and I have sharing screen capacity, is to start with a little audio visual. And I'm terrified about sharing my desktop, so bear with me. Okay, now you can see my desktop. It's like seeing somebody's bedroom when they didn't know someone was going to come over. Okay, I don't know why they chose this to be the ooh, that start up shot. I'm hoping that you all can, yeah, okay. By the looks of people's faces, then I think you can see it. I want to share this. This just dropped. It's from the American Land Board, and it's a little piece about the work we do in Southern California using sheep and goats holistically managed to work towards achieving that very goal, that question that I set forth.
Well, we need the sound.
No sound. I hear it.
Oh, really? Do you guys
Hold
hear
on.
it? Yeah.
Hold up.
There's just a little tick box in the share screen UI that says share sound as well.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm gonna stop it. If I get into one of these moments where it's too challenging to figure it out on the fly, then I will just give it to you as homework, because it is good. It's good. I want you to see it. Kyle, again, I'm going to try one more time real quickly, see if we got audio. But what is the what's the trick?
So when you click share screen,
Yes.
that box pops up, and then in the
Yep.
bottom left, there's a little tick box that says share sound.
Oh, you're great. All right, well, I'm gonna stereo high fidelity. Sorry, y'all.
It's all
No
good.
problem.
Okay, let's see if I can keep you from seeing my desktop again. So embarrassing.
No, we don't care.
Okay, great. Okay, let's try again. Give me a thumbs up if you hear it. Yes or no? Ah,
No, sorry.
No.
oh, okay, share sound, share. And now I have to do a password. And now I have to remember the password.
Oh, dear.
I think it worked.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, but
Okay.
here's the thing is that it's saying that it wants to use this for the audio. Hold on. Okay, we're gonna do this again. Thumbs up, you hear it. Thumbs down, you don't. Okay. sheep and goat grazing here in Southern California for fire prevention, helping to support fire safe and fire ready communities that butt up against open spaces that are fire ecologies. Managed grazing is increasingly being used where the terrain and topography doesn't allow mechanical clearing and other types of clearing to occur. We're able to go in landscapes in very dense vegetated areas and open up space, slowing down the potential if there was a fire.
Sheep are providing the beneficial disturbance that ecology needs in order to continue regenerating, especially in areas that are too weak or too steep for cattle to get to.
Sheep are ruminants. They are able to take vegetation and pass it through their system, and on the back end, they're creating fertilization. Sheep are incredible. They yield food and fiber, and in our communities, they're providing fire hazard prevention and helping to manage landscapes that need restoration and to create more resilience. Whew. Okay, good, got that. So you all saw it and heard it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, good. So holy heck, they came to shoot that in the most devastating of all times heat waves that I've ever experienced. It was 118 degrees in Southern California in the canyons. And we actually had to stop the project that they took the video on with the drones and stuff because it was so hot. But they did a great job at showing, because of that time, the incredibly arid landscapes that we are grazing in. And also we were able to, you know, the animals are eating in those areas. We just have to manage them and move them very fast through those areas because there isn't very much feed, but also we're watching the impact. How are we impacting the landscape as we're moving forward through it? So now you know kind of what we're doing in Southern California. We are managing sheep and goats in places that are not traditional for sheep and goats to be grazing, but very much so like a landscape contractor or whatnot. We are being hired as contractors to come in and bring sheep and goats into areas to provide this ecosystem service that is climate friendly in nature, to manage and reduce fire fuels abatement. And let me tell you, it's a rapidly growing industry in California and actually all over the West. And yes, Megan, I will send you that link. And we have a lot of similar homies, by the way, because I'm also an accredited holistic management practitioner and field professional, educator, all of those things. So we run in the same circles, and I'm happy to share. Congrats on your adventure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm really happy. I'm fine with running this somewhat informal. If you have anything you want to just, you know, bounce at me, if you have questions while I speak or you want some clarification, let me know because I'm a rambling gal. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna pull up some more visuals that do not have. There is not the audio that we have to deal with. I think it's a lot cooler to see the cool, pretty photos instead of just words. And for whatever reason, we got really cool photos because it's people like Diana who likes to tell our story and tell our story pretty. So it's not all beautiful. We just make it look really beautiful, but we're too close to the biz to not make it look beautiful. Okay, here we go. Okay, so while I'm talking, I can't see your faces, but I'm assuming you can see this. So this is the Ojai Valley I think this is a really great photo to start with kind of explaining what we do. There's a big, white, beautiful house behind my logo. And that big, white, beautiful house is brand new because it burnt down. The house before it burnt down in 2017 in the big Thomas fire. At the time, it was historically one of the biggest fires that California has experienced. Since then, we've had mega fires that have like just blown this fire scope out of the water. The clients have hired us. They're actually neighbors to us. They've hired us to come and bring in 300 sheep and goats annually to graze the areas that are too steep for weed whippers. And also they very much so care about the positive impacts. And actually here we managed a lot of the invasive species that came up after the fire. So my business is Shepherdess Land and Livestock. I started about 11 years ago in prescribed grazing in the Bay Area. I was a project manager to a grazing outfit called what is that one called? Star Creek Land Stewards. And that's kind of where I got my start. My studies, I got my degree in agroecology. And in the school, let's see what it was. I transferred from the School of Environmental Studies from UC Berkeley and finished my degree at UC Santa Cruz in agroecology. At that time, I was studying permaculture, which led me to start training in holistic management. And at the time, that's when I met the ranch owner who was working to restore his old growth redwood forest, and he needed to reforest. He needed to plant more trees in some of the degraded areas where the trees had been clear cut from the previous owner. And what was he using? He was using sheep and goat grazing with holistic management practices to actually prime the understory of the forest to plant. We planted over 2,000 baby redwoods, and we first got the soil primed by running 1,200 head of sheep and goats through. And my job initially was to document the seasonal changes over time. And then eventually I adopted the border collie from the ranch manager who was retiring. And then I became a shepherdess because I had the border collie. So it's kind of a long and meandering story of how I became a shepherdess. But I really feel like it was a calling, and the dog Becky was the one who got me in, and I've been in it ever since, with some meanders along the way in my career. And I think that that's a really important piece to add in. So anyways, back to shepherdess, I had to give you a context of where it came from. We use prescribed grazing methods. We are very carefully deciding how we are managing the animals on a landscape based off of ecological goals, fire, hazard mitigation goals. We are not just a grazing operation. We are also very much so interested in the science and the monitoring and metrics that we can extrapolate from the work that we do. We are also very excited about inspiring new folks to get into this work and offering our community ways to learn more about this work. And so the education component has been something that's been very inspiring to me. And that is actually one of the ways that, as Diana mentioned, the Grazing School of the West is really the way that the education component has folded into everything that I do. And this is my business, but Grazing School of the West is the other component of my passion, which is more of the non-profit academic or educational vocational training, a wing of things that I will share a little bit more about. Let me see if I can see you guys. I really need to see your faces. Just like I'm looking at a void of just my slides. Let's see if I can do it. No. All right. Can someone just put something in the chat to say that they're live and well? We're live, if anything, just because I can't see anyone. Okay, I see chat 4. Okay, good. Can't see what you're saying, but I see. Thank you so much. Okay. So yeah, I already gave you a little bit of information about myself. I'm 11 years in. I'm a first-generation agrarian. I was born and raised in North County, San Diego. It's been several generations since my family has been in agriculture. So I really do represent a next kind of a new wave. I like to say new wave of folks getting into regenerative ag and land stewardship and this type of, I try to talk about regeneration without saying the word. So let me dance around that. These meaningful ways that we can live and be and do on the earth that contribute to positive change. So I'm coming from a place that perhaps many of you have come from, which is like first timers in this world. My business, Shepherdess Land and Livestock, Grazing School of the West has been a long ongoing project that has reemerged after some years of kind of in rumination of how it can manifest the most impactful way, and it's organically coming out through my business, where we need to train people to do this. It is a very rapidly growing industry, and so Grazing School of the West is going to be answering to that demand by helping to grow grazers. I have another business called Shepherdess Holistic Hides. In that business, we take byproduct of the lamb industry of sheepskins after it's basically a byproduct of the processing industry, and we make sure that the value is retained from the whole process of live animal to food, making sure there is no waste. So from a raw sheepskin, I will source the raw sheepskin after processing, get it into a salted form, and then work with regional tanneries around the West to then tan them and then purvey them to mostly urban folks who want them in their homes. Great alternative to IKEA. And because I can tell the story of source and the way these animals were managed, raised, where, all of these things, and also tanned in no harsh chemicals, heavy metals, things like that. So that's that business. As you can see, I'm an avid entrepreneur. I'm also the program director and founder of the community supported grazing program here in the Ojai Valley with the Fire Safe Council, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then I sit on a appointed seat with the California Range Management Advisory Committee with the Board of Forestry. And I'm a California Wool Growers Association member, amongst other things, like advisor on the advisory board to Soil Centric. So I've told you a little bit about our business already, that education is really important, and leadership, leading by example, is really important to me. So as the shepherdess of this operation, it's really important for me to walk the walk. And when I try to share the good word of folks getting into this work, it's really important for me to recognize that in order to inspire others to get into this work, I too, hey, oh, come on. Sorry, I have an angry border collie. I'm sorry, Kelly. Come on, border collies, come on over here. Come on. Rue, come on. I'm so sorry. My border collie is being productive in an office. Yeah, we have to walk the walk. So the life-work balance is an interesting thing if you don't actually separate your life from work. So that's always something that's really important when I talk about leadership. And in our work and in our businesses, we have to think about, how do we want to live? What is our quality of life? And in holistic management training, we really start out with this concept of a holistic context, quality of life statement. How do we want to live and be in our work, which requires us to identify how do we have to be able to achieve those goals of our ultimate quality of life in our work? So I like to think that grazier definition is actually an agent of change. Prescribed grazing services and wool production, as I mentioned, of course, we do this prescribed grazing, but we also have a heritage fiber flock of Navajo churro sheep that we have started for more of an educational purposes on our home ranch. And they are Navajo churro that were sourced from my, Dene friends from the Four Corners region of Southwest. Our home ranch is in the Ojai Valley, as I mentioned, 240 acres, lots of chaparral. We have some pasture land, oak forests, all impacted by the Thomas Fire in 2017, 18. Our home base acts as our base camp for our herders in training. And we also consider it a learning living lab and demonstration for climate beneficial agricultural practices in our context, which is like incredibly crazy, arid, dry, drought ridden. Right now we're actually recovering from too much rain. But something that I think is really important in our work when we think about what we do is that we're always in active demonstration and learning. Let me make sure where I'm at on my time. Yeah, we're in active demonstration of where we're all trying to figure out what's the best way to be adaptive in these very unpredictable times. So I like to make sure that when I bring people to the ranch, they know that I am learning by trial and error, and we're trying to see what works in this really dry climate. We were recipients of the Healthy Soils program, Healthy Soils Grants program in California last year. We just started. We've been applying 8 tons of compost on over 20 acres of the ranch, and have on over 50 acres of the ranch, we'll be applying a variety of different types of seed, both native and non-native seed, to start restoring some of our degraded pastures, as well as planting hedgerows. So I invite each and every one of you to come out to the ranch and see how we're doing with that project. For those of you who don't know what prescribed grazing is, I think you probably have a good idea at this point of what it is, but we're using the management of livestock in such a way to achieve goals in vegetation management, as well as many other things: animal impact, animals moving through vegetation in spaces, aerating soil, these kinds of things. Those animal movement just in themselves, that in that act is can be very beneficial. So when I said, hey, this is a burgeoning and growing industry, yes, absolutely. Because why? Well, there are a tremendous amount of folks in our population that live on the wildland urban interface and some of the most fire-prone landscapes. And what do all of these folks need every single year at a very short time frame? They need fire fuels reduction around their homes, because a lot of people have built their homes on beautiful canyons with great views, but are obviously in areas that want to burn. So what we're working on right now is to scale up to meet the demand that there is every year for fire hazard prevention, and that means we need more grazers. So in order to expand the impact, we need to expand the workforce. And there's money for the projects that will be creating the jobs for these folks. Over $80 million of the last budget act were passed, and prescribed wildland grazing has been language put into that bill. I was a part of a coalition of folks to help advocate to get that language in. It's never been in there, and now it is. And so now the government state of California has to fund projects that include prescribed grazing for fire fuels abatement because of all of its advantages on the environmental side as well as economic side. So Shepherdess is ready to grow. We've only been in business for 3 years, and guess what? We're growing in tremendously fast. So fast that I am even more of a nutcase than I was when we started. We've been treating over 1,500 acres. We've had over 20 working apprentices, employees trained within, it's now 2.5 years. We've had, we started with around 200 animals, and now we're roughly around 700 animals, and our gross profits from year 1 to 2 have been pretty stellar. So what is the bottleneck? We need more grazers. We need a workforce of folks who cannot just do the work on the ground. And this is something that I wanted to point out in this presentation, is that we don't just need grazers as people who are building fence, moving animals. Wonderful, very important part of the work, but we need all of the individuals that help build out an organization and a community and network to help bolster this industry and bolster this work. And so that means we need people with all different types of skill sets, not just those who can, you know, turn a sheep around and shear them or trim hooves or build, you know, 15 acres of fence a day. We need people who have all kinds of skills. And that's really something that I would like to elevate or illuminate in this discussion, is we need all kinds of people to answer to the needs of not just prescribed grazing, but all of the industries out there that have foundation in climate beneficial approaches to mitigating the world imploding. So back to this, sorry, a big rant, soapbox. So we need more pathways for folks in the United States to get into this work, because traditionally over the last, gosh, I think it's 50, 60 years, we've relied on foreign labor to come and be shepherds in the West. And now it is time for us to create jobs for folks here. So grazing, oh.
I nailed that side, so the other side's on you, okay? 15.
Oopsies. I'm sorry. I lost something. I lost someone. I
It's
heard
okay.
someone.
Just keep going.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Grazing School of the West is what I was referring to as the project of how do we grow grazers. In 2018, I went to Spain and France to learn how Spain and France was training their next generation of grazers. And it was from that adventure, I learned that actually their way of doing it isn't going to work here. Why? Because we don't have universal health care. Our cost of living is insane, and we also don't have as highly subsidized education. Yeah, we get out of school with a lot of student loan debt. So really, folks can't take the time to not be making money when they're starting their careers. And so I had to re-envision, how do we start a school, vocational training school, where folks can get paid apprenticeships. And that's where Grazing School of the West came in, really through the development of my business. It was actually through starting Shepherdess Land and Livestock that I was able to start creating jobs for people where they could learn. So I discussed a little bit more about what it is and what the school is, and really the vocational training program that we're really trying to support. We're trying to build a not just an on-the-ground experiential learning experience that people are already doing, but we're developing a curriculum that can be adopted and valued by two-year institutions and trade schools for a state recognized accreditation, very similar to getting a certification like a plumber or an electrician, kind of more of the trades type of journeyman certifications. We're looking at prescribed grazing being one of those things that folks can actually go through a accredited training to then be certified to get into the field and being more easily hireable because they have hit the baselines of good night. Oh yeah. The boss is leaving, so I have to lock up. So folks who are, there's a lot of eager folks trying to get into this work. People say, I will volunteer, but actually really you have to have a good amount of exposure and time on the ground and experience to then be able to be the person managing 700 animals next to the I-5 in the most busy populated areas of, like I said, all of the West. It's incredibly high risk. Imagine 700 animals getting out onto a highway with millions of people coming through on a weekly basis. It's a very, very high liability. So it takes time. People need to learn how to work with dogs. People need to learn how to read the environment, how to work with the public, need to know business acumen, all of these types of components that are really interesting and diverse compared to some traditional agricultural pieces. So real world hands-on experience. We want that certification leading to job placement. This business is also, or Shepherdess has been an incubator for new enterprises in food and fiber. And that's really where Grazing School of the West wants to kind of capture that opportunity and help to hold those who are coming in to work with us with their own vision of where they want to go. They want to start a meat business. They want to start a yarn line. They want to become EOV practitioners. They want to start their own farm that's diversified. Really what GSW does is holds the space for personal and professional development to start your own thing. And I can share with you these so I don't just have to read off of a slide because I'm getting close to time. The Community Supported Grazing Program, like I said, I'm at the Fire Safe Council's office. This is a really exciting thing for us here in the Valley. I helped to found the vision of the program 3 years ago, which is working to get the community to help support and fundraise in tandem with state funding to stitch together as much continuous acres around the most fire-prone areas of the Ojai Valley. And so the goal really is to have herds working almost year-round, walking instead of being on trucks to graze the whole periphery of the valley. We're coming into our third season. We have a long ways to go. We put in a big grant proposal with CAL FIRE, and if we do get granted that, then we will have a lot of resources to expedite our process. This year, we're doing our first annual Goat Fund Me, which is really exciting. Again, in efforts to get the community to help support the grazing that is impacting their neighborhoods. And the program also works on K through 12 education. So this is something I use in my pitch decks. For those of you who are working on fundraising, the visual language is so important. I don't think linearly, so the visuals are really, really important for us. For all kinds of folks to get information. We need the numbers, but we also kind of need the mapping and the visioning. And this is what I love to share. The return on investment is measured in impact of using this approach as well as others. investing in this, in prescribed grazing as our vegetation approach, we are doing so much more than just having perhaps some economic benefits. There's acres impacted in just, fire hazard reduction and invasive species management, but we are offsetting greenhouse gases by using an alternative to fossil fuels, dependent machines, and chemical use. We're also, this is the coolest, we also use biological masticators instead of masticators, which are, these big chewing machines that eat up vegetation. We actually have biological ones, and they reproduce, and they can provide food and fiber. So it's just like a win-win-win-win. And then we can create all of these cool, meaningful jobs. And because we're grazing in areas like cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, or even in rural areas, we're able to create jobs for all kinds of people in traditionally non-traditional, for folks from non-traditional backgrounds to agriculture. So this year, one of the things I'm really excited about is that we're doing a project for vocational development for work placement after incarceration with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department at their largest detention center in North County, Los Angeles. And we're going to be doing an inmate shepherds training. It's our first pilot training. It'll be 3 weeks long. And we will be working to pilot our curriculum with inmates who will be managing the grazing operation. We'll be managing it, but we will be shepherding them, working with us to use sheep and goats to graze around the most fire vulnerable areas of the detention center, which is on a 2,000-acre defunct ranch. And that's really awesome for a lot of reasons. One, creating jobs for folks and places for folks to come to outside of incarceration that includes making money and a place to live. So that, for example, is one of the things I'm incredibly excited about for this year. And when I talk about meaningful jobs created, there are so many different types of audiences that can be reached through this type of work. And again, this will mean we need a lot of different types of people to support us who have different specializations in all kinds of places. And I'll continue on that. I know that we are just at time, but I did want to point out that there's many other jobs and career paths for what we call a new agrarian, not just a grazier, but a new agrarian. These are all of the different types of areas that folks need to, that we need in this work, in this movement. So perhaps I'll share this with you too as kind of a post. And I don't recommend you trying to read all of these things, but these are actually questions that I really ask people when they come to work or come to approach working with us. These are questions that I encourage folks to really ponder on, what are your financial considerations when you're approaching getting into this work? Do you need to make, how much money do you need to make to live comfortably with your current situation? Do you have debt? Are you trying to buy land? Do you have kids? Do you want to have kids? Are you single? Are you not single? How much social life do you need? All of these things are really important, because then that really shapes what kind of work, what kind of situation you want to sign yourself up into. Again, this is something that I recommend you reading later on, but career pathways. Where are you in your own journey or your own search, and what's most important right now when you're imagining what's next in your pursuit in the regenerative path of goodness? Do you need something that's stable? Okay, if you need something that's stable, then maybe you work with a nonprofit and you are an employee Maybe you work in academia or the government or established business or nonprofit. Are you just getting in? Meaning, are you just like wide-eyed, bushy-tail, give me any experience, I want it all? Maybe that's an apprenticeship. Maybe it's a seasonal job, that kind of thing. Taking the leap is like, I'm ready. I want to start this thing. It's going to be my own business or my own project. I'm ready to buy land. It kind of sounds like where you're at, Jenny. It's like you're doing the thing. You have experience. You know, you got family. And then I call walking the path is someone who's already in the pursuit. You're learning by doing, and you are, oh no, walking the path. What is it, walking path? Oh yeah, this is kind of basically like the foundation of what we're trying to do, not just in our work, but how to spread it. How do we bring our social values into our work? How do we support social change? How do we find access to land and healthcare? One of the big deals that, you know, starting business for me has been really challenging because I have student loan debt and I've started 2 businesses. It can happen. You can do it. What's a sustainable workload, and how do we support others who are coming up alongside of us or who are a few years behind us, or folks who have had full-on careers who are looking to actually pivot and have another career. In Spain and France, the shepherding schools actually, a lot, I think it was over 50% of the people who come to their schools were in their 30s and 40s, switching vocations. Very interesting. So my advice to, you know, the new agrarian or folks looking to enter into this type of work in some capacity, keep on participating in all that you can. Go to all the things, like go to the conferences, read the newsletters, participate in looking into all the resources that Soil Centric has, as well as the other orgs that you probably have come across. And I can share with you mine. I just was like ultra joiner in that I was like, I'm going to go out there and just learn as much as I can. And that really helps. And I've been in now for over a decade. And I have to say that the community and the people I've met and the mentors that I've gained have been just so important in my path. And I really credit a lot of my personal professional development because I decided to show up and because I kept on showing up even when I wasn't very sure if I was doing the right thing at certain times or if I was struggling. I just kept on showing up. And so that's just a little bit of words of wisdom, is just keep on keeping on. Here's my contact. Feel free to reach out. I might be slow, but in the subject line, write Soil Centric somewhere where I can see it so I can prioritize seeing it. I get like, I mean, we all get a lot of emails, but I do, and I sometimes have a hard time keeping up, and I might be slow, but I care about you. You're in a good place. I got your back. Diana, you do good things and your people are good. So without further ado, I'm going to try to stop.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you so
Whew.
much. Folks, we still have some time for questions. I'm sure you have many.
Uh-oh.
I know I have some, but I'm going to let you all have the stage. I'm offering some virtual claps too. So.
It was really hard because I couldn't see your faces and I really I need it. So I'm glad. I'm like, you're still there. Thank you.
Yeah, your scope is huge. That was really inspiring. And I like how you shed a light on the financial aspect so much, because that's definitely like where I'm at right now, is like, okay, I have all of these ideas, but I need money.
Mhm.
Are
Mhm.
there further in that regard?
Yes, I can definitely offer you some resources on, you need to become educated on all types of forms of funding out there to decide. Like, it's not just, I need money, you need the right money, because every type of money has something attached to it that can be beneficial or could be an anchor. And it's taken me some time to learn what is the right kind of money for what. And there's some really great resources out there. You also learning the legalities of your structuring of how you do things is also really important. I have a sole member LLC. I have a sole proprietorship, and I also am a director of a nonprofit that is fiscally sponsored. So it's a program that is fiscally sponsored by a nonprofit. All of these things are funded in different ways. One thing I am very proud of that I want to note is that I have no investors. No one else owns any of my businesses except me. That means I own all of the debt, but I have no investors to answer to. And that is that's a very big deal, because at the end of the day, I own all of my assets, and my bank account might be very small numbers, but my assets are very big. So I think it's really important to reiterate that, or iterate the importance of having financial and business prowess and acumen. Get good now at your books. If you don't know about those financial basics, get in it. Get in it. It's really important. And especially if you start raising money, you really need to have a good idea of how you're going to make money and what your expenses are going to be. Basically, you need not just 1 year of budgeting. You need like 3 to 5 years really to get the type of funding that you need. There's the FSA, but there's a lot of really wonderful lending groups. And I feel like this is a whole subject that we could go in on, but I'm going to write that down, is fundraising resources. And I'm just going to tell you, Jenny Casson is a lawyer in the Bay Area. She talks a lot about fundraising for mission, value. What is it called? Businesses that are doing good things. Yeah. B Corp, yeah. Jenny Casson, the Regenerative by FarmLink is fantastic. That's also a California thing, but you might be able to find ways to get those resources. And then Farm Commons is a legal resource, kind of just like a legal everything digital resource for those in agriculture. So those are a couple things I would highly suggest.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was curious, like what types of people hire your herd to graze, and like how you monitor that, because you're like working on like slopes and like in very niche areas.
Yes. So the types of people that hire us, we have private landowners and we have public landowners and agencies. So meaning we got folks who have anywhere from a half acre to 100 plus acres of private land that they want our services on. One of our big client in Los Angeles, they're a developer and they're developing basically a town. And we are grazing the periphery of their housing development that is all along big canyons that are very fire prone, and they won't be able to get insurance unless they have this type of fire hazard abatement done. And then we work with the counties. We just got awarded a contract with the Ventura County Fire Department, and we work with open space authorities, cities, the cities, counties, municipalities like SoCal, Edison, like PG&E, like a municipal districts. And then how do we monitor? We have our shepherds stay generally overnight 24/7 on all of our jobs. And we move fences almost every day to every third, fourth, fifth day. And so we always have someone there monitoring. And that's a part of the training, is to know when and how to move animals.
You done anything with the water districts? I know in my county, the water district owns a lot of land, and they've used shepherding services for fuel load reduction. Seems like a partner.
They're awesome because they have a lot of canals. They have there's a lot of canal systems, and the canals generally they have vegetation, and you don't want chemicals going into your water canals, right? So what's a more ecological way to do it? Grazing. We haven't worked with oh my gosh, it's raining again. It's amazing. We are like in a 100-year drought less than 6 months ago. And now we had more water fall out of the sky in 48 hours than we did all of last year. 48 hours. Insane. Sorry, I have sheep hides in the back of my truck in boxes, and I'm like, oh gosh. We haven't worked with municipalities, the water districts, but definitely a very good client.
And we're almost at time here, and maybe we actually
sorry.
are at time, but I'd love to get one in. How do you, what's the breakup of when you use goats versus sheep, or maybe they're all mixed in? And then the other question would be, for your fiber herd, how do you manage so that they don't get burrs and stuff in their wool so that you can actually use it?
Yeah. Okay. We'll probably have to part 2, Diana, on having the shepherdess come back to get deeper into those who want like a side combo on prescribed grazing. Sheep and goats. Goats are browsers. Sheep are grazers. Goats are like deer. They like to get up on their hind legs and eat leaves and things like this. They like brush. They like things that are ridiculously sharp and horrible to imagine eating. That's goats. Sheep are more like cows. They have their heads down. They like to eat the grass. They articulate it with their tongue. They pull it out and they put it back into their mouth. That is a sheep or a grazer. So we use grazers and browsers, not to be confused with graziers. Graziers are those who are managing the grazers. We go to a landscape, we look, okay, how much is there grazing grass versus browse? And if it's 60-40, then we can kind of think, okay, we'll bring 60-40 of browsers and grazers. But we generally use herds of both. In terms of keeping our wool, we separate our fiber flock from our working herd, and we're managing them specifically for their fiber. Also, a lot of fiber operators put on these crazy canvas jackets at certain times of the year to preserve the wool. Excuse me, or you can just make sure that you're sharing frequently enough where you don't have too much long shaggy shag.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I have questions too, but we're at time. So
sorry.
No, this is I'll email. Yeah, folks, I want to do like a little silent round of applause
Thank you.
for Cole. Thank you so much. This was really exciting. I learned a lot. even just there, I had no idea what the difference between browsers and grazers. So I feel like I'm just excited to digest everything. And is it okay if folks reach out to you? If we actually, you said, yeah. So you do folks have Cole's email? Wrote that down. We can also follow up, make sure you have contact information. And yeah, we are gonna gather back together next month. We are likely gonna gather together on June 1st. I will confirm that date for you next week. We are hoping to invite a friend of mine to come talk to us who has an even more crazy story of how he ended up in the regenerative ag space. He came from the finance world in New York City and is now in regenerative ag and ag education. So hopefully he's available. And if not, he will come talk to us at some point. So a little taste for next time. And in the meantime, please feel free to reach out, keep your learning journey going. And if folks could also please make sure that you send me your cell phone information, I can get our WhatsApp group together. And that way you can talk to each other, learn from each other, coordinate calls outside of these calls and, you know, connect. And also folks here have really cool projects and programs they're working on. I know, you know, Jenny needs hands on her farm. And so if you're looking for a fun trip to New Mexico, I'm sure there's a place someone could set up a tent, Jenny, and yeah, kind of get your hands dirty a little bit. So connect with each other as we go through this as well, and learn from each other. It was wonderful to see everyone. And
I just want to thank Cole, just how much you have done